What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 4 team builder for the WPL, and I just realized this is way off to the side. Okay, it doesn't like that very much. Alright, well, we're just going to leave it there. We are taking on Derp and the Toronto Maple Bayleefs. Derp's a good pal. You know, I've played against him in a bunch of leagues. No, I haven't, actually. Sorry. What am I talking about? I'm in a bunch of leagues with him, but I have actually never played him, so this will be the first time playing him. I'm going to play him later on in the Mount Silver season, so pretty fun. He ended up taking over this team very last minute for Dominic Milano, who is the WPL season 7 champions. We're in season 8 now. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so originally supposed to play Dom. Dom's been fairly inactive lately, so Derp took over the team last minute. Doesn't get any transactions. Also still has not played his week 3 match, so as at the moment of me recording this team builder, he is only 0-2 -3. His team consists of Zero Aura Z user, Hippowdon, Vaporeon, Delmise, Ditto, Masquerain, Mega Kangaskhan, Tyrantrum Z user, Gothitelle, Super Z user, Excadrill, and Crabominable. Priority options in the Zero Aura with Fake Out and Quick Attack, and the Mega Kangaskhan with Fake Out and Sucker Punch. Hazard setting in Hippowdon with Rocks, Masquerain with Sticky Webs, Tyrantrum with Rocks, and Excadrill with Rocks. Hazard removal options are Delmise with Rapid Spin, Masquerain with Defog, and Excadrill with Rapid Spin, and a 4x weakness on his team is Masquerain to Rock, which I actually don't think I've got covered whatsoever. So I'm just hitting the Masquerain super effectively, not 4 times super effectively this week. So in terms of what I think he's going to bring and what I don't think he's going to bring, I'm really not expecting Delmise, Gothitelle, or Crabominable. Gothitelle is interesting. So he might choose to bring Gothitelle to trap a mon like Registeel. I think everything else is too big of an issue for the Gothitelle to show up for. I've got some pivots on it, and the other mons on my team, besides Registeel that he would want to trap, can all just kind of like set up on it and kill it. So it's got kind of a weird matchup, and I just don't think that it's a viable trapper against my team. It's too slow. Something like Dugtrio is a little bit better to catch me off guard, but Gothitelle just doesn't put in the work here. Crabominable is a little bit too slow. You know, his Trick Room option is only the Gothitelle, which again, I don't think Gothitelle's coming, so I can't imagine Crabominable shows up this match. You know, it's got an alright matchup hitting mons like the Garchomp and the Zapdos well, but I just don't think it's bulky enough to be living hits, and I don't think that it is fast enough to be able to break my team. I didn't really prep for it pretty much at all, and I would imagine Primarina is my only switch into it if it does come. Delmise, another interesting one. I just don't know if he has the room for Delmise here. You know, it's definitely a solid option against me. It can take on the Zapdos relatively well. It can take on the Garchomp relatively well. Switches into Primarina, alright. Excuse me. It depends how worried he is of Mimikyu. You know, Mimikyu doesn't have a horrible matchup here. Like, it kind of sucks that I have to match up against a Ditto with Mimikyu, though, and that's the main reason why I'm not bringing Mimikyu, and I'll get into that later. Yeah, but Delmise, you know, it's got an alright matchup here, so we'll sort of see about that one. I'm not entirely sold that Delmise isn't coming. I did prep for it a little bit. I'm just not really expecting it. Masquerain is sort of another iffy one for me, that I'm not sure if he's going to bring Masquerain or not. I'm not sure what he gains out of webs here with Sand. So you may bring it as like a setup sweeper. I just don't necessarily see webs being that helpful for him. I've prepped for the webs. Haven't really prepped for the Masquerain as the setup sweeper, although I do have a switch into it in the Zapdos. Fairly good switch into it in the Zapdos actually there. Yeah, I do think Zero Aura is coming. Excuse me. Not much I can do there. I've prepped for it, I guess, with the Mega Beedrill being faster than it. That's realistically the only thing I have prep-wise for it. Hippowdon, I think, is going to come to set the sand because I think Excadrill is a really good matchup here against my team. There's not much I can do against the Excadrill, so I'm going to be put in a pretty tough spot against it. And I may just end up having to sack something and then bring something else in. Mega Kangaskhan, he may think is worthwhile bringing. Personally, I don't see it. Like, I really don't think that Mega Kangaskhan shows. It might, who knows. Tyrantrum is a monster, and it can do a lot to my team, so I think Tyrantrum's going to come. But I've specifically prepped for Banded Tyrantrum or Dragon Dance Tyrantrum, whichever shows up. And I think that was it. So I named off, like, 8 mons. At the end there. Oh, Ditto. Sorry, I forgot to mention Ditto. Ditto, I do think is definitely going to come. I've got a lot of setup threats on my team. I've got like triple sword dancers. Sorry, quadruple sword dancers. Quintuple sword dancers that are viable. And if he's really scared of Lurantis breaking through Vaporeon, then Ditto is definitely a way for him to be able to deal with Lurantis. So, yeah, worthy to note, he does not have a fairy, so Garchomp is pretty free here. And he also pretty much doesn't have a special attacker. Like, his best special attacker, stat-wise, is the Zeraora, I guess, technically. But, you know, like, special Zeraora, especially offensive Vaporeon, Quiver Dance, Masquerain, and, like, offensive Gothitelle, excuse me, are his best special options, so I've prepped very heavily on the physically defensive side of things. And if he brings a special attacker, I'm a little bit fucked. So that's where we're going from there. So start off with my team, bringing Mega Beedrill. I've got U-Turn. For momentum purposes, it lets me get out in the Gothitelle and pretty much bops the Gothitelle. In terms of bug resists on his team, the only one there, sorry, the only two there, I believe, are the Crabominable and the Diggers, Excadrill. I don't believe anything else resists bug. Ditto copying me resists bug, I guess. Oh, actually, sorry, I forgot to mention the Masquerain. Masquerain also resists bug. So his U-turn resists are not really there. It's a pretty strong move against his team with the adaptability. Unfortunately, it can't be adamant, but Jolly Beedrill still hits just as hard. Knockoff is there to get rid of items on anything that may want to switch into my Mega Beedrill. Ideally, I get rid of an item on something like the Hippowdon, or I can, you know, hit the Delmise and get rid of its item. Excadrill, if I can hit the Excadrill switching in for some reason. Excuse me, be perfect to weaken that, and honestly, I just love to get rid of anything with item, especially because I don't anticipate there being a Scarfer on his team, and if it's going to be a Scarfer, it'll be the Tyrantrum, which I have 100% switch into every single day of the week. I've got Drill Run on there as well, just to hit the Excadrill a little bit harder, as well as hit the Zeraora in a pinch. So we're not running Poison Jab. He doesn't have anything on his team weak to Poison because there's no Fairy on there. So Poison Jab is actually fairly irrelevant, you know, only if I was wanting to stay in, which I don't really want to do. I really want Beedrill to sort of pivot in and out. I did have a wildly different set, but I needed Defog on the set to get rid of webs. So I'm actually, unfortunately, stuck with this Beedrill set. I had a much cooler set with X-Scissor and Fellstinger going on, like triple Bug Stab with X-Scissor, Fellstinger, U-Turn, and then like Drill Run, which I thought could dent a lot of his team because he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't have the best bug resists, and if I can get a Fellstinger kill off, it's a much better situation for me. The Ditto also kind of got hard-walled if it copied that set by Zapdos, so I was very comfortable bringing that set. Yeah, so I'm running enough speed on here to outspeed the Zeraora, max attack, and then a little bit of HP. Primarina is next. I'm running a little bit of a bulkier Primarina. I was wanting to run Specs this week, but I thought it was a little bit better if I could switch up the moves. Just because if I lock myself in a Moonblast, Excadrill kind of gets a free switch in, which isn't the end of the world. So I may end up changing this before the battle, just because I do think that Choice Specs kind of hammers his team a little bit. You know, I'm in a position where I can like his only Fairy Resist is the Excadrill, so I am in a position where I can kind of just click Specs Moonblast and have a field day. Primarina comes in on a lot of stuff. The Gothitelle trapping me, so I actually calced Specs Moonblast against the Gothitelle, Specs Modest Moonblast against the Gothitelle, and it'll two-shot a specially defensive variant. So he cannot trap me with the Gothitelle. It's not a viable strategy for him. Energy Ball is there for the Vaporeon. I kind of just switch in on Vaporeon very freely, which is why I wanted to be a little bit of a bulkier set and get some recovery. I think Leftovers canceling the sand damage is going to be a little bit helpful too. I've got Scald there in a pinch as well. It'll deal with the Excadrill, burns a lot of stuff, honestly. Ice Beam there for the Delmise in a pinch, but realistically, I'm probably never going to have to click Ice Beam. It's also there for the Masquerain in a pinch. Again, realistically, I probably never click Ice Beam this entire game. It's just an irrelevant move slot, and I didn't need anything better than that because I can hit everything with just a Moonblast and Scald, and I probably never have to click Energy Ball. It's honestly a dangerous option for me to even have Energy Ball in the set just because of the Ditto coming in. But I figured Moonblast was safe enough to have, because if he copies me with Ditto, then Beedrill will outspeed a Scarf variant of my own Primarina, and I can switch into Moonblast pretty effectively, knock off the Ditto's Choice Scarf, and then U-turn out or something. Yeah, so I'm running actually a little bit of speed here on the Primarina, and this speed is for base 65. So he's got the Vaporeon and the Gothitelle both sitting at base 65. I am speed creeping over 20 speed EVs on both of those Mons with Primarina and Beware, actually. So I don't need to talk about the speed investment on Beware. It's the same speed creep on Beware as it is for the Primarina here. You know, I really like the leftovers because it lets me switch into Vaporeon freely, which is otherwise such a problem. Kind of. But Specs just dents him, man. Specs just hard dents this man. So I am just going to switch it to Specs. We're still Torrent for the Scald boost. It doesn't really matter about the ability. I do like Specs. I really like Specs. And I'm actually just going to pull up a calc on my other monitor here, because I'm curious about the Specs damage against Excadrill. Like a standard Sanders Excadrill, can it even come in on Specs Primarina? Excadrill, Sanders Super. No. So Specs Moonblast actually two-shots Excadrill, so it cannot switch in. And Earthquake doesn't kill me. Yeah. Okay, I am definitely a lot happier with running Specs on this now, because apparently I two-shot his entire team. Delmise. NU Rapid Spin. Let's say you're Assault Vest. Yep. Specs Moonblast two-shots that too. So, okay. And I already calced against Gothitelle. So, alright. Relevant calcs are relevant. And actually, I'm also curious about Spadef Vaporeon. It probably isn't Spadef Vaporeon. Okay, so Spadef Vaporeon I actually don't two-shot with Moonblast. Fully Spadef Vaporeon I do not two-shot with Moonblast. But no, it's not even, it's a really bad roll to two-shot after rocks if it's got leftovers. But I don't anticipate him being fully Spadef. If anything, he's mixed defensive, and just max HP Vaporeon I will two-shot. So I'm comfortable with bringing Specs Primarina and spamming Moonblast against his team. That is very free. Zapdos is next, fully physically defensive Zapdos with Static to get the paralysis on the Tyrantrum. Well, not necessarily the Tyrantrum, but the Kangaskhan is kind of a big thing for me to get paralysis on. I should wall the Excadrill to an extent. He's going to have a rock move. There's no way he doesn't. And I have a very viable switch into the rock move in the Beware the next turn, the following turn. I should also 1v1 the Delmise very easily. I should 1v1 the Hippowdon as well. I can't imagine that the Hippowdon is going to be able to deal with me very well. I think he's going to have Toxic for me, and I can wear that down. Again, this is my Masquerain answer too. Sort of wears down a lot of his team with Toxic spam. Again, his Steel type is Excadrill, and I don't necessarily think Excadrill wants to switch into Zapdos all that often. I'm carrying the Heat Wave as my only attacking move besides U-turn. It'll hit his entire team, and I would want to Toxic the Vaporeon anyways, so it kind of sucks that I don't have a great way to hit the Vaporeon with this. So I'm going to have to rely on breaking through Vaporeon with a lot of other Mons on my team. Yeah, I've got the Roost there for the recovery, fully physically defensive again with a little bit of speed. I needed Toxic on this set, and originally I had Defog on this, and I had my cool Beedrill set, but unfortunately it just didn't end up working out that way in terms of my Zapdos set and how effective it could be, because I would have loved to have an Electric type move on here just to break through the Vaporeon. Sorry, I'm actually in call right now on Discord. And I probably should have just left the call to avoid all of this shenanigans. But that is what's going on. That's what's going on with the Zapdos set. So again, that's Zapdos. It's probably not as efficient as I'd like it to be, but I'm trying to do too many things with it, and I'm not super thrilled about that. Beware is next. Rocky Helmet Beware for the Mega Kangaskhan. I can switch into Mega Kangaskhan very freely. I switch into the Tyrantrum very freely. Banded Tyrantrum Outrage does like 20% to this Beware spread. I'm very comfortable with this Beware spread against that. Zeraora I take on very easily. The only way Zeraora kind of beats me and breaks me is if he hits me with Close Combat into Z Close Combat. That will kill me because All Out Pummeling does bypass Fluffy. So while the first close combat is heavily reduced damage, the all-out pummeling will kill me. So he can be Z Zeraora. He cannot be Z Excadrill, however. So I'm very cautious about the Excadrill, but he cannot be Z Excadrill. With this spread, Earthquake is doing about 33 to 39% from standard Sandrush variant, and I heal all of that back with Drain Punch against it. I two-shot it with Drain Punch. Drain Punch, sorry, is very efficient against most of his team with the Beware. I think the Masquerain might want to switch into me, in which case I've got the Toxic for other things. I can 1v1 hit Powdon with this as well in a pinch with the Toxic. I can 1v1 the Delmise with Toxic plus Shadow Claw. It cannot beat a Toxic plus Shadow Claw variant. I've also got the Toxic if he wants to switch into the Gothitelle or wants to switch into the Vaporeon. I'm outspeeding the Gothitelle, so it can't just set up Calm Minds on my Beware for free if he wants to bring a Calm Mind variant with a Taunt there. Shadow Claw is actually not doing anything pretty much to the Gothitelle. It's doing like 38% or something along those lines. So if I crit, then I'm in a better spot, but Shadow Claw is realistically only there for the Delmise. I'm hoping Gothitelle doesn't come, and so I just don't get trapped by it, because this is a very key mod to the roster this week. This Beware set is really important in shutting down his physical attackers, just because it's my objective best physical wall against his team. Registeel would be much more efficient if he didn't have double ground types, Tyrantrum, which commonly runs Earthquake, and Zeraora, which can easily get close combat, as well as the Mega Kangaskhan, which gets Earthquake, and the Crabominable, which blows it back with Fighting Stab, and the Delmise also gets Earthquake. So, yeah, Registeel is complete trash this week, and I just could not afford to bring it. So basically physically defensive Beware, but I'm running, again, I talked about the speed investment is there for the Gothitelle. So that's Beware. Garchomp's next. I'm running a Sandeville variant. Sandeville is allowed in this league, so I'm going to try and abuse his sand in return with my Sandeville. Rocks, this is my rocker for the week. Rocks are pretty efficient against his team. I don't necessarily want to lead against the Masquerain because I think it might carry an Ice Beam variant to 1v1 my Garchomp. I also think Vaporeon might have to make room for the Ice Beam. Besides that, he might bring Crabominable just to 1v1 Garchomp. I'm not entirely sure on that. I'm really not entirely sure on that. I gotta be really wary about the Ditto again. I'm not sold he's bringing the Ditto, but he might bring the Ditto, and in which case I cannot set up an SD before doing stuff. Dragonium Z is a massive nuke. Like I said, he's got no fairy type, so Dragonium Z does a shitload. Dragonium Z at +2 is a massive dent into the Hippowdon, which is super useful. I can kind of sit on the Hippowdon for a little bit, get up at least like 1 SD. Earthquake into Z Outrage kind of like blows everything back. Earthquake into Z Outrage two-shots anything anyways, and Earthquake in general is really strong. Sorry, Z Dragonclaw, not Z Outrage. And Devastating Drake will do a large chunk to the Masquerain, should take it down to its Sash at the very least, just from neutral. I'm running enough speed on here for Mega Kangaskhan, which is the fastest thing I can, besides the Zeraora, which I can't outspeed. He's got a very slow team besides the Zeraora, and so he's kind of relying a lot on sand to pull a lot of the weight back, or relying on webs. And I don't think it's a very viable strategy. Like, I don't like that plan very much, but it seems to work, I guess. Although I guess it hasn't, because he's 0-2 going into this, or Dom was 0-2 before giving him the team. Last but not least is the Reuniclus. I am running a Life Orb Reuniclus, which also two-shots his entire roster. Even with this special attack investment, should still two-shot his entire roster. Focus Blast for the Excadrill and the Mega Kangaskhan, again in a pinch. I can't imagine that I'm ever going to have to click Focus Blast against anything besides the Excadrill. It's pretty worthless against most of the mons there. Shadow Ball, pretty obvious uses. I mean, realistically, I hit the Delmise really hard, and I hit the Gothitelle if he wants to trap me. And then I've got Psychic there for the rest of the team, which just nukes so much of that team, honestly. Life Orb Psychic nukes a lot of it, and I've got Recover there for recovery, obviously. I'm not taking Life Orb Recoil, of course, because I'm Magic Guard, but I'm slower than most of his mons, and so I don't want to be put in that position necessarily. I am going to hit the Ditto harder than he's going to hit me, because I have the Life Orb, and he'll be Scarf, most likely, or at the very least, we'll be able to scout out and see what sort of set the Ditto is. I'm running speed investment on Reuniclus, and it's like, why the hell are you running so much speed? I'm running all of the speed for Delmise, so I actually outspeed 20 speed Delmise with this, and just because I think he might run a little bit of speed on Delmise to outrun, like, Lurantis, I'm not entirely sure on that one. He could definitely be running a lot more speed than that, but I figured it was maybe worthwhile for me to sort of outrun that, like, low-speed Delmise. You know, mons like Hippowdon still naturally outrun me, and I didn't need the extra special attack investment, really, so just putting it in speed felt kind of good to me. Okay, so in terms of what I'm not bringing here, Mimikyu, again, like I said, Ditto is the only reason I'm not bringing Mimikyu. Otherwise, I would probably have Mimikyu in place of the Reuniclus here, just because I already have the Primarina as a special threat. You know, I want Reuniclus as another special threat on the team, too. I might have brought Mimikyu over the Mega Beedrill in that case, because Mimikyu has a really good matchup here. Just like a Ghostium Z set, or a Phytinium Z set, sorry. Actually looks really strong. Because I don't need the Fairy Stab at all, you know, his dragon is weak to fighting, so I could run like Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, Swords Dance, and Drain Punch with Phytinium Z and pick off kills pretty easily against that team. But unfortunately, Mimikyu gets shut down by the Ditto, and I didn't want to run a set with Shadow Sneak that's weak to the Ditto, because then he would Shadow Sneak me first, and if he's Scarf, then he Shadow Claws me first, so it's really bad. It's bad. Lycanroc Dusk gets shut down by the Hippowdon almost indefinitely. Like, I can't really run Lycanroc Dusk here against the Hippowdon, and I haven't brought Lycanroc to a single game, so I'd like love to bring Lycanroc, but I can't afford to bring it. I wanted to bring like SD Crunch, but it just couldn't fit on the team. Registeel, I explained earlier how shit Registeel was this matchup. Dugong, I can't Perish Trap the Vaporeon, and realistically I can't 1v1 the Vaporeon either. As much as I resist the ice hits from Crabominable, I can't switch into the fighting moves from Crabominable, and Dugong is overall just weak to a lot of the mons on his team, so no Dugong. And then Lurantis, I also have not brought Lurantis to a single game. Lurantis looked pretty good here. Again, the Ditto is what I'm a little bit worried about, and I'm actually slightly worried about the Masquerain with Lurantis as well. Lurantis was fairly efficient in picking up kills. The problem that I was running into is I'm not sure what I set up on. So, like, Superpower Leaf Storm sets, like a Dual Dance set, kind of just like blows through this team. Another issue is that my recovery and synthesis is reduced by the sand from Sandstorm. Otherwise, Lurantis did look very good. It does look very strong against this team. Again, if the Ditto copies me, I'm kind of in a shit position. So that's what you can take away from there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the team builder here, and hopefully you catch the match against Derp and his Toronto Maple Bayleefs.